we're now being joined by Captain Abhimanyu, representing the state of Haryana in the GST Council. Captain Abhimanyu, appreciate you joining us here on CNBC TV 18. Sir, if I could first start by asking you to explain to us what the Finance Minister seems to suggest. There has been virtual convergence on the compensating mechanism, and we are given to understand that most states seem to be in favor, or at least okay in principle, with the idea of an imposition of a cess. Can you confirm that to us?
Yes, that is one idea which most of the states have finally concurred upon. And let me just share with you, Shereen, that the entire atmosphere in GST Council in the last 2 days had been very congenial, and most of the issues have been discussed there, and the decisions are being taken on the consensus basis. As far as this imposition of cess is concerned, the basic guiding principle that we have kept in mind while even discussing about GST rate structures and the bands is that the current taxation, the cumulative effect of the center as well as state, after the GST comes into effect, the effective rate must be lower than the existing cumulative rate. So we have to keep in mind the overall manufacturing, also the industry, and of course the consumers, and as well as we have to make sure that the states do not suffer any revenue losses after the GST comes into effect.
Pending a formal nod of the GST Council has in principle given approval to the imposition of a cess on luxury items, on demerit goods.
Yes, in a way. We try to discuss various options other than this imposition of cess, or going in for a higher rate, higher range rate. But we didn't want to add too many rate structures at the same time. And since this is going to be a transitionary arrangement for 5 years, so the best option was that these cesses, the different revenues that are already accruing to the center as well as the states, they will be passed on to this cess fund. There's no additional levy, there's no additional tax, there is nothing in addition to what is happening today that will be levied. So this is just simple passing on.
But Captain Abhimanyu, the consensus, at least within industry and tax experts, is that the very idea and the notion of the imposition of a cess is opposite to the idea of the GST itself. In fact, it's a retrograde move. It's a step in the wrong direction. Can you explain to us whether there was any argument that was presented on the complication that will follow because of the imposition of cess, and was it the centre that pretty much has tried to convince states to come on board with taking the cess route?
See, we respect, and I personally respect the opinion of every expert sitting here. But at the same time, when you're sitting there in the GST Council, you have to take decisions. And all these possible impact on the GST regime as such were discussed, and we wanted to keep it as neat, as clean, as simple, with minimum of distortions as possible. But since this compensation formula had to be worked out, and we did try to discuss various other permutation combinations, but nothing was more simpler and neater and cleaner than this. And this is the reason that we had to go in for this additional imposition of cess. And at the same time, these revenues are already coming in, and they're only getting subsumed. And to ensure that this compensation is made, we had to increase the highest rate to a level which probably was not the best option in the mind of most of the members. And we didn't want to create any cascading impact on the inflation, and also did not really want to impact the industry and the manufacturing, for example, the high-end luxury cars or the white goods and other. We didn't want to adversely impact them. So this is the best
My final question,
that we could pick up.
So you believe that this is the best option forward. But final question to you, Captain Abhimanyu, if there is a finality on the imposition of a cess to fund the compensation, then why didn't we arrive at a consensus on the rate structure? Because that, now I understand, is going to be taken up on the meeting on the 3rd and the 4th. So what's holding back the finalization of the rate structure, sir? Where was the disagreement?
Your question itself speaks volume of the environment in which GST is working. We are discussing everything and every possible, even as far as the imposition of cess is concerned. There were 5, 6 different alternatives were discussed, but ultimately we had to decide upon it. So it's taking a lot of time, but the overall intent is to arrive at a consensus, and we do not have any dissent whatsoever. And if at all there is a different voice, we would like to discuss and deliberate upon it and then conclude. This is exactly what Union Finance Minister had been trying in last 3 meetings, and these 2 days meeting that we had, we've just finished today. So I'm sure in the next 2 meetings we should be able to decide upon the rate structures and the dual empowerment issues also.